Hey everybody, just about to start the last major raised bed of this spring. Definitely not the last one, but the last one of this spring. And I thought I would just share kind of a quick little tutorial on kind of how I came up with this process on building raised beds. And I think it's important because you can build your raised beds for a fraction of the cost of buying some of the brand name corrugated galvanized metal and things like that. And I would suggest they're going to last an awful long time and probably be just about as close to much value as buying some of these prefabricated ones. So for me, it started with being frugal as we can be, but still wanting to build something that looked nice and is going to last a long time. So we came up with the idea from watching a big channel on YouTube. I'm sure if you're watching this, you've seen some of his stuff, Self-Sustainable Me. He uses the Birdies corrugated raised beds. They look fantastic, but they're like $300 or $400 Canadian at least. And I just can't justify spending that kind of money. So I came up with a way to build them. I'm not a great carpenter, but I can build stuff. And this process, I just sorted it out and kind of sussed it out myself. So I'm going to share with you kind of where that came from and how you can do the same thing with this, making raised beds out of galvalume, galvanized roof panels, and pressure treated wood. It should last, I think it'll probably last 15 to 20 years. Time will tell. So here's kind of how I come up with that idea. Basically, we wanted raised beds that were going to be tall enough that as we got older, we'd be able to work on those beds without being on our knees, stoop down to the ground, and those kinds of things. Plus, we have awful soil here. There is literally maybe a half an inch to an inch of this brown clay, sand, builder fill material over top of just stones after stone after stone. So it's really not very good building. So we wanted to have some soil that our plants could grow in. So, the Birdies ones are about 3 feet tall, which is a nice height. And I came up with 20 inches tall for our galvalume panels for one very simple reason. If you look at this galvalume panel, it's 39 inches wide. So cutting it in half, which is this rib right here, hope you can see that, this rib right here is half, and that's about 19 and a half inches approximately, or 18 and a half, 19 inches. By the time I put them inside of the pressure treated wood frames, I've got a 20-inch high bed wall. And it means that I can get, out of one galvalume panel, I can get 2 long sides, okay? Then, the panels I usually buy are 10 feet long, which means if I'm cutting them in half, I can make an 8-foot long and a 2-foot short times 2, which if I'm making a 4-sided bed means I can make one 2-foot wide by 8-foot long by 20-inch tall bed with one galvalume sheet. And it would be 1, 2. So if I take 10-foot 2x4s, I can make with about 4 10-foot 2x4s, I can make this bed. So total cost in Canada right now, a 10-foot sheet of this, which I just bought, is $55. A 10-foot pressure treated 2x4 is around $10, give or take a little bit. These I've been buying 12-footers because we're building longer stuff. They're $13 each. So that means for, let's say, $40 plus $55, call it $100, plus some screws, there's another $10. So for $110 to $120, I can build my bed structure. Then at our local garden or soil Place, Souk Soil, shout out to those guys. 1.5 yards of their deluxe garden mix is $72. I think it's about $50 a yard. And so I can put 1.5 yards in the back of my pickup truck, and a 2-foot by 8-foot by 20-inch high with some logs in it will take about 1 yard of soil. So for around $150, I have a nice looking, all of these beds are made the same way. A nice looking, long lasting, somewhat waterproof and water resilient raised bed for less than half of the money of some of the Birdies products. This would be a pretty similar common raised bed size. This is 6 feet wide here, 20 inches deep, and then 20 inches tall. And you can build that out of half of a 10-foot galvalume. So it means you could build 2 of these out of 1 sheet of galvalume. But anyway, that's kind of how I do it. And the rest of it I'm gonna leave to you, because you got to kind of be able to bodge these things together. You can build a frame first if you want, or you can do like I do. And often I'll build panels and then screw them together, depending on what I'm doing. And I will give you a piece of advice if you haven't started doing this yet. In Canada here, we have a store called Princess Auto. The US would be Harbor Freight, would be very similar. These metal shears are an absolute godsend. I think that tool cost me $80, and it's probably the best $80 I've ever spent, because we're going to build more of this stuff, and plus I use it for roofing our sheds and stuff, and that cuts through that tin like butter. So that's a quick little tutorial of how I come up with it and how we can build raised beds that are very economical. They look good. They're going to last a long time, and you can do it for a fraction of the cost of ordering the prefab ones.